BamfordRose, and it's forum chat time. This week we're going to go for another quick fire roundup of some snippets of forum activity that I've spotted across the internet. First off is a Facebook group post, and it's off a V8 V12 Vantage owners group forum, which I sometimes use quite frequently for sources of material. This poster states that BamfordRose are using this private group as the fuel for their string of controversial videos. In these, we see a screenshot of a forum post followed by an answer to a question, which can be very useful, or a systematic attempt to discredit and humiliate them. There have been a number of group members who have posted on here about this, with many breaches of GDPR. I'm interested to see what the general consensus is. I never voted, but I'd have gone with the 2. Most of the votes that said no, we shouldn't use that forum as a place to get material. For those that voted no, most of the comments I read was more along the lines of it's okay if we just blank out any personal details, which is a fair point, and going forward we'll do that. There's lots of people from that group that private message me and I help them out with problems. If we do illuminate an issue off that group, then it is for the general good of the Aston community. This poster's obviously got some issues of his own. Very emotive writing. String of controversial videos, he says. Well, I don't know what controversial videos we've made. Anyone with any sense knows that it's not controversial to say it's best not to fit a supercharger to your car. And it's not controversial to say that actually basic detailing is quite easy, and gel with your car, do it yourself, improve that ownership experience. You'll save a packet and add an element of the ownership experience and enjoyment of the car to your overall enjoyment with the car. Apparently it's many breaches of GDPR. I think you've totally misunderstood what GDPR is there for and what it does. And there's no element of GDPR which could be carried across to this Facebook group and the extraction of that data and use of it in a video. A systematic attempt to discredit and humiliate people. That's clearly not true. There's been one snippet that I took, which was someone that dropped a front subframe to change an alternator. Now that's pretty intrusive work, and there's absolutely no need to do that. You can get an alternator out by removing an exhaust manifold and taking the alternator out through the back. Showing that example to other people is not humiliating the guy that dropped his front subframe to take his alternator out. Humiliation would have been picturing somebody on their driveway that can't extract the pins out of a caliper whilst they're changing their own brake pads. That's just someone's lack of equipment and lack of skill. So whilst making a video about a better way to remove an alternator is good and not humiliating someone, there's absolutely no point to make a video showing that someone cannot extract the pins in their brake calipers, because there's no wider learning to be gained from talking about that. But I think the motives of this gent was clear. You know, he says that he's asking consensus, but then finishes with the statement, should BamfordRose be allowed in this group? So rather than asking for consensus, it's pretty clear what this bloke wants to achieve. But hey, no dramas, I have plenty of Facebook aliases up my sleeve. Next forum chat snippet is someone looking for a fruity but non-vulgar exhaust upgrade. Heard Quicksilver are good. Any other recommendations? Does AM Factory have an option, as it's off to AM Bristol for the service later this month? Most of the aftermarket back boxes that I've heard, and I've heard pretty much all of them, have got some sort of error state somewhere. Whether it goes raspy, high up the speed range, whether it's just too loud, whether it changes the classic Aston bass burbly exhaust note to something non-Aston. Most of them don't have the functionality of the exhaust bypass valve, so you can't send it quiet in those times that you want a stealth mode. And the factory has done a lot of noise, vibration and harshness testing to tune out any harsh characteristics. Most aftermarket back boxes introduce some pressure buffeting in the cabin or some other vibration and harshness which you can feel either throughout the rev range or at particular parts of the rev range. Really is the best option to keep the standard factory back box, to keep the bypass valve so you can have a silent and a quiet mode, and get more noise by doing some sort of primary or secondary decap. Those options are cheaper than an aftermarket back box. You keep the standard factory back box, so all the good noise, vibration and harshness engineering has been retained. With the primary and secondary decat, you'll actually get some power and some on-throttle responsiveness from the modification, meaning that you're making the engine produce more noise, and that extra noise is played through the factory back box. So that's the clever way to get a fruity, non-vulgar exhaust note, and not by going for an aftermarket back box. Next is a comment about maybe conducting a pragmatic service instead of a full service. It says, my 2009 V12 Vantage is due an annual service. I've owned the car for about 8 years and I've always had main dealer service every year. The thing is that I do very little mileage in the car now, and from last year's service the car has only done 588 miles. I'm loath to skip an annual service, but I don't intend to sell the car. Is it worth having another service, or should I switch to a service every 2 years given the mileage I do is so low? Certainly this year, and it's been very strange, means that the cars have not been used as much as what they would have done. If selling the car, potential purchasers are looking for that annual service stamp in the book, and missing out a service is probably going to go against you come resale time. But in reality, the annual service can be stretched out if the mileage is so low. If it's around about 2000, I'd say 18 months service window was okay. Maybe at the spring of 1 year, maybe at the back end of the summer of another year, and rotate your servicing like that. But we've had many customers where the mileage has been like less than 500. Some cases like 150. The car's just been locked up for the whole year. And in those cases, we've started to do a pragmatic service where we remove certain consumables from the list of stuff to change, meaning that crucially the car is getting the inspection, which is really the most critical part of a service, an inspection every 12 months to make sure that there's been no problems creep in, no rodents creep in to air boxes or nestling on the top of the engine. I'm sure most garages out there, certainly this year, have approached servicing in that manner. So, you know, either stretch it out every 18 months or ask your garage to enter into an agreed pragmatic service, which is obviously going to mean a much reduced cost to do that pragmatic service. Linked in with servicing is the next snippet from a forum chat, and it's this one where a guy has said that he's thought about who's going to do his servicing, whether it be specialists or dealers, and after much thought he's going to do it himself because he's an ex-Ferrari mechanic and knows his way around a car. So if you are competent at working on cars, then it is a really good idea to service and repair your own car. These Astons are incredibly easy to work on. They come apart really intuitively and quite simply, and replacing oil and filter, bleeding brakes, changing brake pads, changing air filters, cabin filters, it's all quite simple. Obviously you're going to struggle with anything AMDS wise doing your servicing at home, and it links in with the previous forum chat about pragmatic servicing. The inspection side of the service is the most critical key aspect. On a V12 it's real close diagnostic checking to check that there are no low-level misfires creeping in, and it's that car-wide inspection with an eye that is used to looking at these cars all day long, which spots anything untoward. We're 100% dedicated Aston Martin here. We get asked to look and service other customers' cars, Ferraris, Porsches, and they're after a basic service. We can do that because we're mechanics and we know how to change fluids and basic consumables. But we'd rather not do it because A, we're 100% dedicated Aston Martin, but B, because we can't give the car that very detailed inspection with an eye that knows if the slightest thing is out of place, really feel like we're doing the car a bit of a disservice. It's exactly the same reason why we won't do classic Astons here. We've serviced a couple of DB6, and whilst we all know our way around carburetors and points and bashing on and off wheel spinners instead of wheel nuts, just feel at the end of the service that because it's not been gone over with that eye, which is going to pick up any detail that's not 100% correct, that we're doing the car a little bit of a disservice, and really that car needs the stamp of a recognised heritage specialist in the book. So whilst it is really easy and the cars are accessible for mechanics to work on your own car, you'll never really suffer any detriment from changing all the fluids yourself. You'll be able to do it. I'd just advise that every once in a while you take the car for an inspection only, hook it up to AMDS, and both electronically and mechanically you'll then have peace of mind that the car has been gone over by someone that really knows what they're looking for. Hope you like that roundup of a few forum chats. As ever, it really helps us if you can like, comment and subscribe.